You're listening to the Full Court Press with your host, Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial. You know what I love in football? Is a damn good rivalry. And in the NFL, it doesn't get much bigger to me than the Denver Broncos, the Oakland Raiders, the Denver Broncos, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Oakland Raiders. There's just not a lot out there that does more for me in the NFL than the AFC West basically coming together for, as good old JR would say, a slobber knocker. And Sunday wasn't exactly a slobber knocker. Everything about the Denver Broncos that I have said, I think to me remains an absolute. The Oakland Raiders, everything that I've said, I think to me remains pretty much an absolute. Offensively, the Raiders clearly have been slowed down over the last two games. Between Washington and Denver, they just haven't been able to get it going. But see, though, this is where you have to start giving certain teams credit. Currently, the Orange Crush defense, which is the Denver Broncos, has held Marshawn Lynch, Ezekiel Elliott, Melvin Gordon, and LaShawn McCoy to a total of 50 carries, 95 yards, and 1.9 yards per carry. Now, that's damn good efficiency. And it's a lot better than it has been over the years. And that's been one of the primary concerns for the Denver Broncos. Look, with Denver, there's never been any concern about their pass rush, their pass defense. It's the ability to close off gaps and seal off edges so that way runners are not able to break free. Tackling has been an issue, and Vance Joseph, is doing a very good job, obviously, of cleaning that aspect of Denver's game on defense up. And I know that with the Raiders right now slipping to 2-2, there's going to be a lot of people that say this may not be a marquee win. But, as I pointed out on Friday, that it would be the premier win in the AFC West. And I still believe that, even though Kansas City was very impressive over Washington last night. And I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit in the program. I think the Denver Broncos, whereas the AFC West is concerned, they have the best victory. The Chargers are a terrible football team, and they're so bad that there's more Eagle fans, more Dolphins fans showing up to their games than their own actual fans. It was the same way in San Diego. It hasn't changed any at all in L.A. There's no big surprise here. They're a football team that is basically led by Phillip Rivers, chucking it all over the football field, whereas Oakland, to this point in the season, up until they played Washington, looked like a very balanced football team. Marshawn Lynch running the ball pretty effectively. Derek Carr doing everything that he does with throwing the football, and even did that a couple times against Denver. But I think the main problem that I see right now with the Oakland Raiders is consistency. Now, a lot of that you have to give credit to Washington and Denver, to their defenses. It's a bottom-line scenario. They have the Raiders figured out, and they were able to take control of that football game. But again, I just don't think that Trevor Siemian is a quarterback who would take the Denver Broncos to the places that they want to go. They are going to be carried by this defense, and I just don't think that their defense has enough in them to be able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs 2 times this season. Denver may be able to get 1, but they're not going to get 2. Trevor Siemian is just too basic in his capabilities. He made some decent plays running the football. Denver showed a little option, which I loved. But I think that Denver really needs to go to a power-type offense with the roster that they have now. Because even though they have the capability with guys like Jamal Charles, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, to break plays wide open, Trevor Siemian is not the guy. A touchdown pass that he threw That was a great catch, not a good throw. He got bailed out by his receiver. If anybody thinks different, well, I don't know what to tell you because it was a horrendous throw. He's not good at throwing that fade route, and that's exactly what it is. You call it underneath route, you call it a fade route, whatever you want to do. You slip up from the slot, you work your way underneath, and he can't hit that throw. So he gets bailed out. I'm just not a fan of Simeon, and I don't know that there's anything that he can do to make me a fan. I think that Denver is trying so hard to work out of his capabilities. And look, I'm not there in practice. You know, Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas and Von Miller and all these other guys continuously claim that Trevor Siemian is the guy. But there were more turnovers. There were more missed throws in this football game. He's indecisive in the pocket. I'm not into it. I don't look at Trevor Siemian and think to myself, Denver can go to a Super Bowl with this guy. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that will point out Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson and some of these other guys that were kind of carried a little bit by their defense, and with the superior offensive talent that both of them had around them, they were able to go and win Super Bowls. But number one, Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer both had better arms. And while neither one of them were as mobile as Trevor Siemian is, they were better in the pocket. They had better field awareness. I mean, those were things that you could at least give to those guys. I mean, Trent Dilfer was dubbed the worst quarterback to ever play in a Super Bowl. Worst quarterback ever to play in a Super Bowl. Ends up Super Bowl MVP. I don't see that happening with a guy like Trevor Siemian. How could you? That kid is a turnover nightmare. And I know that it's got to be frustrating for him. And honestly, I don't hear a lot of criticism coming his way from a lot of other people. But I am a guy that from day one actually wanted Siemian to be the starter last season. But when I saw more of him play, I just thought to myself, this dude can't get it done. Whereas the Oakland Raiders are concerned, boy, they stepped in it now. Derek Carr is out once again for 2 to 6 weeks this season. Initially, they thought it was just going to be back spasms. Now they're finding out that it's way worse. And it was obvious that the best thing to do was take him out of that football game. But look, E.J. Manuel came in and played very well. Started out 8 for 8, moved his team down the field a couple of times. They were able to spread the ball or, go to more of a spread formation. They were able to run the hurry-up offense with E.J. Manuel. He was very decisive in the pocket, made very quick reads, and he had 2 drop passes that were both in the end zone. And both of them were very catchable footballs, especially when you're an NFL wideout, when you're an NFL tight end, when you're an NFL anything. Those are catchable footballs. Do I think that Michael Crabtree not being in the game hindered the Oakland Raiders? Yeah, absolutely I did. Look, the Raiders are one of the teams that I look at, and I think to myself, they need every piece to the machinery in order to make it work. They really do. I think Derek Carr's the oil, the transmission fluid, whatever you want to call him, because he makes the whole thing go. He keeps all the pistons in there and everything lubricated. And then you've got Amari Cooper. He's like the car battery. And I think Michael Crabtree's the alternator. And if any of those pieces go out or dry up, you have a problem. But I think under E.J. Manuel, they're better off than I think most of us thought they would be. And look, E.J. Manuel's got good playing time. And he really wasn't that bad when he was at Florida State. And I think that this is a guy that you could trust his offense with. But I think that they'll need to shift the way that they do the offense. And look, I honestly believe that if they go with the hurry-up mode and the up-tempo the way that they were doing against Denver, I understand that it was desperation mode. But I think if they play the game like that, as long as EJ is their guy, then I think that they could actually be very successful and they could win 2 or 3 games while Derek Carr is out. Look, the one thing that I have always talked about and I believe this with everything that is in my body, is that you never, ever bring a guy back earlier than he needs to be brought back. I understand that teams get frustrated. There was a lot of high hopes for this Oakland Raiders football team. Myself, a lot of other sports journalists and fans really believed that the Oakland Raiders were easily a 12-4 football team this year. They were going to compete with the New England Patriots or Denver Broncos or Kansas City Chiefs or whomever else for home field advantage, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that a lot of people looked at this Raider team and really believed that they were a Super Bowl football team. But unfortunately, you just can't plan for everything. And my biggest fear, watching a guy who was as great as Derek Carr is, not just on the field, but off the field, a guy who was that great, get brought back too early and his career destroyed because he's not ready yet physically to be back in the game of football. And when you're not ready, and here's the thing. Oh, I'm 90% ready. Well, dude, that's not ready. 90% ready is not 90% ready. And a lot of them will say, well, I just got to get past the middle part of it. And that is another thing about this. So while I will kind of agree if a guy says, oh, I'm 90%, but it's only because I'm 100% ready my body, but only 10% mentally, that's something that I can live with. And I can live with that because when you get hurt, sometimes you have a tendency to start playing timid football. And timid football will hurt you more times than it'll help you. So while I could understand that plight, 9 times out of 10, I'll never get with I'm 75% ready. I'm 85% ready. No. You are either 100% ready to go physically or you are not. That's it. That's all there is to it. There's not going to be an in-between anywhere in there. And to be honest with you, I don't think it was the knee in the back that hurt Derek Carr. I think it was the yank on the helmet and the way that his body got twisted as a result that hurt Derek Carr. And I can't believe nobody's talking about it being a dirty play because it was. Absolutely it was. That was a dirty play. Didn't Danny Trevathan just get suspended because of a big hit that he waylaid somebody out, Devontae Adams, right in his helmet? And you're going to tell me that while a guy is down on the ground, to grab and yank on his helmet, his head and neck area, there's nothing wrong with that? I don't buy it. And it was right there in front of everybody. Open field. It's not like any of the refs should have missed it. The camera was on it. From every different angle, you could see it happen. And I knew as soon as I saw him get his head yanked, I was like, well, this is going to be a penalty because that was dirty. Nothing came out of it. Nothing. That is unbelievable to me. That is very unbelievable to me. I don't understand why there's nothing out there about him getting fined. There's nothing out there about him getting suspended. I can't believe Derek Carr himself has not come out and said, the play was over and I was down. And I get yanked on like that. Now, I'm not saying that the knee to the back didn't have anything to do with it, but I'm saying it was the yank after the fact that made it a hell of a lot worse. And coming from a Broncos fan, believe me when I tell you, I don't like seeing my guys play like that. Again, I alluded to it with the Danny Trevathan issue back on Friday. I played defense growing up, and I cannot remember a time when anybody got hurt that I hit. It's not that people didn't get smacked around when I played football. Hell, my dad's got it on camera, me lifting a guy over my head that's 140 pounds heavier than I was. And that is no exaggeration. That's probably being nice about it. Kid played running back. I'm lined up at defensive end, and they're coming right at me. So I just laid down on my back and just grabbed him and just took him over. I got more out of it than he did because his belly hit me right in the head and knocked my head back up against the turf. It was a dirty play. Whereas the Raiders are concerned, I think they'll be okay with E.J. Manuel. And I think they'll win a few games. And I think as long as Derek Carr is kept out for the full 6 weeks, he'll be okay. But you don't 2 to 6 weeks this thing. You say, you know what, dude? You're going to sit until you're ready. Because the priority should always be a player's health. And I know a lot has come out about the NFL, about the love-hate relationship that they have with players, and I get that. But let's just hope that the Oakland Raiders and Jack Del Rio and everybody else understands that the first and foremost priority is making sure that your guy is healthy. I think E.J. Manuel is going to be okay. And if it is a full 6 weeks, I still think the Raiders could have 6 wins by the time that Derek Carr comes back. I really believe that. I really do. I think E.J. Manuel showed a lot. Poise, precision, stood tall in the pocket, able to elude some pressure, create plays. Yeah, absolutely. I think they'll be okay. Whereas the Denver Broncos are concerned, I really believe that they're going to have to change their scheme up on offense. It's obvious they want to take shots down the field, which I love. And a lot of their game planning allows for those opportunities to be there for you. But unfortunately, you don't have a quarterback that can get it to his guys, and they're constantly having to bail him out. And after a while, your receivers can't do it anymore. This is the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. You're checking me out live from the K-Sun Studios out here in Wichita, Kansas. You know the rap sheet. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Drew Duncan 83. We're going to take a quick sponsor break. When we come back on the flip side, Kansas City Chiefs fans, guess what? Your team is 4-0 and is the last man left standing. We're going to talk about it right after this. Don't you dare touch that dial.
Soon as you hear the snap, get 'em. Orange Crush, Orange Crush, Orange Crush, Orange Crush. It's not a team in the league that my day ain't Orange Crush. Orange Crush, Orange Crush, Orange